Hello, and welcome to War in the Webway. My name is Ollie.
And my name's Alan, and welcome back to our next episode 2
Episode 2.
of War in the Webway, where we focus on Venatari and Sagittarum, specifically, these two units today, and it's going to be a really in-depth dive into both of them. We're going to look at how we use them competitively, how we think they should be played, and the tips and tricks that we've kind of learned over the past, well, since 10th has come. And please remember, this is all subjective. This is all mine and Ollie's opinion, and based on our experience. But we really do hope that you enjoy it and actually take something away from this.
I like the way you're caveating that because you know that the anger about something we're about to say is gonna kick off.
Someone's going to freak out.
Oh, 100%.
Someone's going to freak out at this.
I just want to say that like the reason we've picked these two as like our first unit dive is because in ninth they were everywhere. So I love the Venatari models. I love the Sag models. I have my Sag with Warden bodies. I think they're great. And so in ninth, I used to spam Sagittarum. I used to have a couple of Venatari, and yet you don't see Sag as much. But everybody's talking about Venatari, and we kind of want to talk about like what we see with them, how we've used them, why they're different, and then why they're so popular as well. We
Specifically, the Venatari. The Venatari are popular, but the Sagittarum, you rarely see them.
yes,
But in my opinion, Sagittarium's probably better.
I completely agree. Right. And with that 2 minutes, if you've made it through to this far, let's slag off some Venatari.
Let's get going.
Let's get going. Okay, right. So, Venatari custodians are a really strange unit for me because on paper they look great. They move 10 inches. They're basic custodian bodies. T6, 3 wounds, OC2, 4 up in fun. One thing, and I was trying to think about this before we jumped on. I really like Lance. So if you give them the spears, I love the Lance rule. +1 to wound on the charge. I think it's great. They get a inbuilt rapid ingress for free, for want of a better word. And they can fall back and charge and shoot and charge. Like, their datasheet looks great. But why don't we like them?
Okay. The datasheet does look good. Okay. As soon as you hit that points, 200 points for 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. You're going to dive straight in. Got it. Yeah. Go.
Yeah, I'm going straight in for that. But I'm also going to basically go back to what you said. It's a standard custodian body.
Yes.
With lance.
Yes.
Now, what are you actually going to throw these guys into?
And hitting all the points I'm about to hit. This is the problem with this because we both hate them.
Well, I don't hate them. I mean,
I do.
So, okay. I think I touched on this in the introduction video or episode 1 when we were talking about the state of the faction. I do not agree with some of the other videos on YouTube, which are made by some really good Custodes players.
Yep.
I do not agree with them that Venatari are a match winner for us.
Oh, hell no.
I think Venatari have a specific role, and in order for that role to be achieved competitively, you need to add in other things into your army. So, okay, but back to foundation. Okay, what are we, as Custodes players, when we go to a tournament, what are we coming up against now and losing against?
Yep.
Well, obviously we're getting hammered by Eldari.
Yep.
It's obvious. I mean, I've beaten them a couple of times, but every time I come across their fate dice, every one of those dice is a dead custodian. There's no way around it. So that one is always going to be difficult for us. We're coming up against Space Marines now. We're coming up against Leagues. We're coming up against kind of Death Guard, CSM. World Eaters are coming up. We're going to start heading into Necrons a lot more now. So you've got to look at it and say, right, if those factions there make up 50% of your meta or 60% of your local meta, then if you're going to a 5-game tournament, you're going to play, in all likelihood, you're going to play 3 of those factions.
Mm-hmm.
or one of those multiple times.
Yep.
So so taking that into account, what and how are you going to use Venatari into that? Venatari for 200 points for 3 models. The only benefit, the only thing that they have going for them, like Ollie said, is the movement, lance, and the fact that they can drop down in what's it called, rapid ingress for
Yep.
no CP.
Yep.
No CP. So countering those 3 points, the movement side of things is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, that's absolutely great. However, when you're screened out,
Yep.
and you've got to drop rapid ingress, that movement can go out the window very quickly.
Yep.
The lance element of it. So what are you actually going into? Well, when they're screening you out, in all likelihood, you're going to go into weak bodies, which you're potentially going to be wounding on 3s with lance wounding on 2s.
Yep.
Does it matter? Does it matter if you kill a 10-man cultist squad or not? I mean, you OC 6, you could burn through most of them. You're going to kill most of them with a Qatar anyway.
Yep.
So wounding on 2s to 3s, where it does matter is going to be into, say, World Eaters or into infiltrators or something like that.
The Marine killers in an army that doesn't need to be Marine killers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Outside of that, those 2 positives that they've got, which we've just described why they're not positives, and then you add the fact there's a 200 point tag on them. I mean, yeah. I've talked enough about them. They just really don't do it for me.
So here's my thing, right? So if you think about the Custodians playstyle, this is what we tried to start with saying, what's the state of play of Custodes? They're not tough. They're really easy to pick up. Yes, they can rapid ingress for 3, they move 10. If they get Night Spinner, they move 8. They can't advance and charge. Yes, they can fall back and do whatever, but whatever they go into, they will get picked up in return. So the 10% of your army that doesn't do anything, right? You can't run 6 of them because that's 20% of your army, which is insane amount of points on 6 models of 3 wounds. If you give them the buckler to give them the extra wound, they lose the lance, which gives them one of the benefits, right? Obviously, you can't have a Vexilla for the extra point of OC, but you don't need that because they're not going to be flipping objectives. OC 6 versus OC 9, they're not really going to be flipping objectives. So basically, they come down and they charge some screens and then die. And it's like, but why are they so popular? I think they're popular because of the movement. I think people see that 10-inch move and go, there's nothing else in the army that does that. Well, there is. Wardens with a Blade Champion can advance and charge. That's an average 9 to 10-inch move with a charge. Like, they are deceptive. And with Fly being terrible now, you're not even getting the benefit of, like, being able to start from the top floor of a 5-6-inch ruin and fly across the board, because you have to come down and up and over and stuff like that. So I can't see why people think these guys are great. And 200 points is so many points for 3 models. I was looking at this and I was like...
Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I was looking at this and I was thinking, what would make these guys actually attractive to me? Doing something like the Eldar Swooping Hawks, where they could go back up into... Is the Swooping Hawks the ones that can go back up into Deep Strike? So they can come down and then move again. That'd be quite cool. Yeah. And for 200 points, that's probably worthwhile. But their stats, their abilities, they aren't worth having so few models on the board for so many points. And for me, it's just, where do they fit in to an army, apart from Rule of Cool? And they are great models. I love the models. I do have 6 or 9 of them, but they've all got the pistol and buckler, which is now the worst option by far. So I need to do some conversions and get some lancers on them if I'm ever going to play them. But I probably won't ever play them. And so for me, they're just really, really disappointing. I love the models, but I don't see where you put these guys at all.
I think probably people have, and people may look at this and say, well, actually, they've won me games, blah blah blah. But if that's the case, great. But I think people have fallen into they've played them, and because of the reach, they've gone and taken an objective that they wouldn't normally be able to, or they've scored more points, and it's had a bit of an impact on the game. But that impact is not as much as what it would have been if it would have been a more finely tuned or more efficient use of points.
Yes.
So what people are doing is they're seeing 3 wardens go in. Three Venatari go into a squad.
Yeah.
Pick them up. Hold your opponent down to 1 primary or something, and then get picked up in return. But that is creating a kind of positive image of them, and it may have won a few games, but I think when you start to get towards the higher tables,
yes,
they're not viable, and I think that's where a lot of people are coming unstuck. If they use them, especially if they use them in larger numbers.
Yes.
I think one of the things for me is at LGT I ran 3, and I didn't strike them at all.
Did you not?
At all. I didn't use. No, I didn't use the rapid ingress once because I used them in the Coronas.
Of course you did. Yes.
Because for people listening, a Coronas grav tank, it's got an 8 capacity.
Yes.
So I had 5 Sagittarum in there, and 3 Venatari in there. Now a Coronas grav tank is deceptively hard to kill. So by moving up, I get the extra 3-inch movements coming out of a transport. It then gives me that 13-inch move. I can then have that 3-inch extra move is actually really good. I can get way further into my opponent's lines than if they're screening me out.
Yep.
Obviously, it depends on who you're playing against. When they go through their army list, when you're at the table, if you look over and see tons of cheap bodies, then you don't want to put them into rapid ingress.
Yep.
If you look over and you just see, high value squads of 5, then rapid ingress. But I didn't. So I think having 3 I think is the most I would do. I haven't run them since LGT.
Yep.
And then they're not making any of my lists.
Yeah, so I look at lists with Venatari in there, and I'm thinking, well, that's a weakness, because that's an easy 10% of an army to pick up. They're going to come down somewhere. I, as an opponent, can control where they're going to come down. If they come down and rapid ingress down, do I really care about 3 bodies? Because most of my army, and again, for those who don't remember, I'm playing CSM quite a lot, but most of the stuff in my army can do 3 damage. There's a lot of stuff in my army that can do 3 damage. So if I've got 3 3-wound bodies at 4 up invulns, I'm fairly happy I can pick that up without even trying. They're not resilient. Yes, they have the -1 damage, but are you going to spend that in 200 points of flying Custodes? Like, you'd want that on a bigger squad.
You're saving that for your wardens.
Exactly. So, like, you're not even using the good strats on them. And if they're trying to get an angle on something and they go into something, I can't see them making their points back. I think you're right, though. I think people are in this false sense of security with them where they've done something really cool with them. And you're like, great, excellent. And if that's one of you that's listening to this, well done, excellent work, congrats. But if you're talking about point for point and efficiency in terms of list building, I don't think you start in Deep Strike. I think you're right on that. And then if they start on the board, the one thing that these guys really lack, and this is sort of jumping around a bit, so apologies, but one thing these guys really lack is any character support. So a lot of the custodian units get much stronger with character support, whether that's with the free strats or whatever it might be. Wardens with a character get the -1 to wound. There's no character that can go with Venatari, so they can't advance and charge with the Blade Champion. They can't get free strats. They can't do the stuff that makes Custodes very cool, in my opinion. So you just have this like random unit out in the wind, and for like 215 points you can get a Caladius, or 200 points and you get 3 Custodes. Like, I just they're really weirdly pointed for what they do.
Well, it's a guard squad, isn't it? 200 points is a guard squad, but I think
200 points is a 4-man guard squad, right?
Yeah, 4-man guard squad. Yeah.
So you're losing a body to be able to fly, 4 inches of movement, and lance.
And obviously the guard squad you can put character support with, you can put inquisitors with, you can put enhancements on. You got your full rerolls on objectives. So, I mean, yeah, I get why people are using them for that reach, but there are other ways to get that reach, and the ways that me and you really like and think that the faction should be going down.
Yes.
Obviously, we'll talk about this in the other video when we talk about Wardens and Alaris and pro wardens, very negative Alaris, by the way, people. I reckon, that will come out. But, I love Venatari, the models. I
Yes.
think they're absolutely fantastic. Flash Gordon, when I saw them, I was like, Hawkman. I went out and bought like 3 packs. I'm rubbish at painting, but I tried to do one as Voltan.
Did you?
From Flash Gordon. It didn't work at all. it bombed out. But I reckon, if they came down in points to be more in line with Guard or Wardens, I think they would be very competitive.
I think so. I think if they were pointed at the same way that Guard were, and you have Flying Guard versus normal Guard, I could see there being a case for that. I just think that, like, the biggest negative is so expensive. And their abilities need to either be better or they need to come down in points.
Thinking about this from a purely competitive standpoint, if you want to run 3,
Yep.
when I was at LGT and slightly before in the practices I ran them, I found the best way to actually utilize them on a battle was not to say this Venatari squad is going to go and kill that unit or is going to go and do this. What I really liked was they were like my utility piece I kept in my back pocket. For 3 of the games, they left the Coronos on turn 4 and 5.
Oh, really?
So they stayed in there. Yeah. And it was when I picked up secure hostile. The enemy's objective in the enemy's, what's it called?
Capture enemy outpost.
Capture enemy outpost. That's it. But the big 8 points, I think it is.
Yeah. That's
7. Yeah. So because of the extra few inches, I still rolled 6, 7, 8 inch charges to get in there. I would kill what was ever on their objective and take it. And I did that twice, and then on the other time that they came out quite late, it was because my opponent was scoring quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was well ahead, but I was a bit conscious of him scoring quickly. My 5th turn, I could have picked up really bad cards. He could have picked up really good cards. So I pulled them out in turn 4 and just thought to myself, right, I need to slow him scoring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take him off 1 primary and lower his primary score by a little bit.
Yep.
And I don't care if I lose 200 points killing a 50 point or even a squad of Nurglings. I'm going to slow his scoring down so that I can dictate a bit more of what's going to happen. And can control the game and constrict the game a bit more.
And okay,
what
so
that meant was, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, so just with that, do you think that if you'd have used the 200 points in something else, whatever it might be, you'd have had the same result? Or do you think that go back to the first thing you said, which was the Venatari are being used in a way that people think they're going to be winning them in the game, and therefore they're putting in like more value to them. So did the Venatari win you that game, or would there have been an equal unit you could have done the same thing with? You just had the Venatari to use.
I couldn't actually do those actions with another unit.
Yep.
Because I was sending them out of the Coronos, and I was doing it when I already had the 5 Sagittarum in there. It meant that I couldn't have put another unit in, so to speak, because my other size units were all more than 3. So because the Cronus has 8 capacity, it was a 5-man and a 3-man.
Yes.
Neither of them had characters, so that's how I used them. And they, as much as we're saying that didn't work. In that capacity, they worked.
But it's because you had the Venatari, the Cronus, and the Sagi, and you kind of built around that party bus, didn't you? That was
100% party bus. And I'll touch on what the Cronus and the Sag did, and when we go into Sagittarum. But the Venatari, using them as a utility piece, I think is the only viable way. And like I said, if your opponent's getting too far ahead of you, not only if they're catching up on you, but if they're getting too far ahead, and you are hoping to get a good 2 cards, and just using that Venatari to go in and take them off an objective and just limit their primary a little bit can keep you in touch, so to speak.
Because I remember when we were designing that LGT list, and like we were talking about it and what you wanted it to do, and I remember going, what? Okay, it's got capacity of 8. You want the Sag and the Cronus. Again, it's not a Cronus episode, but you want the Sag and the Cronus. What unit has got 3 in there? And the only one I think we could come up with was Venatari, right? Because Guard is 4 to 5. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we could have put Alaris in, although that would have been 210. I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was after the data slip.
Yeah.
210, or I could have put 3 Aquilans. I almost put the Aquilans in.
Oh yeah, you both think about the Aquilans as well. Alright, fine. Ignore that. I had a feeling it was only the Venatari that was 3, but yeah, Alaris and Aquilans, but they're both more expensive. So actually, for what you were trying to do, the Venatari were very poison sufficient, which is nice.
Yeah. And in the mirror matchup, the guy that I played against, really accomplished Custodes player, had 2 squads of 3.
Yep.
And while they did a bit of work against me because I didn't have any screen, ultimately it was 400 points that I kind of went through. If he'd have had another big blob of wardens,
yes,
that he would have won that game.
So I can't believe 6 Venatari are more expensive than 5 wardens with a play champion. That's just insane.
It's nuts, isn't it? It's nuts.
That's so baffling. But again, I think Venatari know this really weird spot, and this is what we're trying to get at, I think. And well, at least this is my kind of summary for Venatari, which is they don't really play like Custodes, and whilst they give Custodes a different thing, it's not always a good thing and not necessarily something that I look for. So literally, I look at this data sheet and I glance right over it, and I'm like, nope, not interested. Fly's crap now. Lance is quite cool, but there's nothing. I've got nothing that I need these guys to do that I can't get from somewhere else for cheaper. And it's a real sad place because, like you say, the models are great. I've got loads of them. I'm actually quite happy with my paint job on them. I'm just looking at them now. But yeah, I just really, really strange place for Venatari for me.
Yeah, and I think we touched on it, but looking at the factions that we're going into, and we're going to need to beat to go from those mid tables to those high tables. There's tons of Space Marines out there now.
Yep. And
Redemptors.
Yep.
The Lance is nice into Redemptors.
2 damage is not.
Yeah, you're not. They're -1 damage. They pick you up in shooting and combat.
Yep.
Into Venatari. So also you've got 0 defense against dev wounds, and I think that if you're gonna run them, a utility piece, fast reaction piece, great, but I don't think they're viable as any form of actual substance in a Custodes list.
I just think that the way I think most, and this sort of goes out to anybody who's playing at the moment, going, I don't really understand why my Venatari aren't doing what I think they should do, and I think that might represent with a number of people because they will not be using them as a scalpel. They'll be trying to tank something, or they'll be trying to kill something, and I just think they like we said at the start, they kill a screen and then they die in return, and you've traded badly. And you can't trade badly with Custodes. You have to pick your trade. And I look at this and I'm like, what do you kill and get your points back? Or what do you do on the battlefield and get your points back and make you efficient? And I definitely can't run two lots of 3. And I definitely can't see one even that.
Do you remember practice game, LGT?
Yeah.
I was running the party bus.
Yeah.
And you deployed, and they came out and sniped Abaddon.
Yes, that was annoying.
That. So, there are uses for them, and when an opponent gives you an opportunity, having a unit like Venatari is great. But if you're up against good quality opponents, they're not going to give you an easy opportunity.
Thanks, man.
in terms of like. Because you didn't know that they were there.
If you're up against an opponent who's not an idiot and gives you Abaddon with your Venatari.
No, I think you were laying a trap for me because you had, what's it called? Who's that guy who shoots the pistols?
Cypher.
You had Cypher right next to him, so I genuinely thought when I moved there and you said, "Oh, Cypher shoots." I was like,
yeah.
And then you bombed the rolls, didn't you? You rolled like triple 1s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you'd have killed one, they wouldn't have killed it. So I think that utility is the only way to go. And I think Ollie, I think you don't really have an issue facing them, do you?
No,
Really?
no. Like literally, if somebody goes, "I got Venatari." It's a little to me. It's a little bit like Alaris. Spoiler alerts, because that's going to upset other people, but I don't care. But I look at that and go, "Cool, that's a weakness in the army." If somebody's running 3 squads of wardens, I'm like, "Ah, crap, what do I do?" Somebody goes, "I got some Venatari." Like, okay, cool, no worries. Oh, but they're going to be able to turn a flank. Yeah, I'll get that flank back. That's fine. I'll be able to trade up. Like, so little problem in facing Venatari. Yeah, everything I've got in my army one shots these guys. Okay, I think that's Venatari done.
Even your Forge Fiends, would they get them easily?
6 hits, 6 actual hits, wounding on 3s, 4 wounds, 1 dev. So you got to make 3 saves. So 1 dies instantly from devs, and then I might get 1 or 2.
Yeah, so that's what. And how many points is a Forge Fiend?
180.
Yeah, there we go. And that's just 1 round to shoot.
Exactly.
Isn't it? And that's on average.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, even if I get 2, they're neutered massively. Even if I get 1, they're neutered massively. 15 attacks at hitting on 2, strength 7 -2, 2 with lance. Strength 7's this weird spot. So I was doing the maths, right? And I think that if you're playing in the mirror and you put your Venatari into some Alaris, they only get 1 Alaris. Because Alaris is T7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 11. Oh, sorry, it's like 13 hits, and it goes to like 9 wounds or something. Maybe I get 2 Alaris, but either way, like they don't trade into Alaris, and Alaris at 140. Like it's a really weird profile. I just don't like them. Like I just don't like strength 7 -2 for 2.
Yeah. It's just, and the shooting as well.
The shooting's the same as all custodians, right? Assault, 2 shot, strength 4 -1 for 2. Like you still can advance their assault weapons. So if you drop them in, so here's how I'm thinking of these guys, right? You drop them in, both rapid ingress, into cover. You then advance them and get them, say, behind enemy lines for a turn or whatever. Maybe you draw a card that's deploy teleport homers. So they're going to get you the 5 points. And then if you can, and you can keep them in cover, they can be a bit annoying and like harass your backfield. But it's a lot of points being tied up into basically trying to make a play. And if somebody doesn't let you do that, they push out their screen, you can't get to their deploy teleport homers or behind enemy lines or whatever the secondary scoring that they might be able to do is, then they don't get their points back. And yeah, I just can't see it. I cannot see the value. Small unit size, 3 with 40mm bases, easier to hide. They can go through walls because they're infantry. They can fly, so they can go through enemy models. Like, I understand it all, and then you come back to the 200 points, and it's just so points inefficient. Not a unit for me, and I think a strange one that is so popular at the moment.
Yeah, we have talked an absolute age on Venatari, far more than we wanted to initially.
Yeah, but we always do that. The thing is, like, it's one thing to say I don't like a unit, and it's another thing to say I don't like a unit because of these reasons. And with that in mind, I want to talk about a unit that nobody seems to be running anymore. Sagittarum. These guys were everywhere at 9th when they could have the 2-shot weapon, and one was a heavy bolter and one was the strength 5 -3 for 3. But you had some success with these guys at the LGT.
It was the party bus.
It was the party bus.
So, yeah, it was the party bus. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like the Venatari. They come as a package. So, 225 points for the Sagittarum, 200 points for the Coronos, and then obviously 200 points for the Venatari. So you're looking at 625 points in this bus.
Third of your army is a party bus. That is a party bus. Okay, so just before we go there, right? So the Custodian Guard body, T6, 3 wounds, 2 up, 4 up, OC2. It's exactly the same as Custodian's body. How many points are they for 3? Oh, they come in 5s, don't they?
They come in 5s, they don't come in 3s anymore.
Yeah, they come in 5s.
9th, yeah.
Weapon, sustain hits 1, 3 shots, strength 5, -1, 2 damage. They're heavy bolters with sustain 1. What makes these guys incredible is the disintegration beams. So it's once per battle. It's a roll of a dice, but you can get dev wounds with Custodes, which is cool. And so, how will you get in the party bus to do what the party bus did?
Okay, so it's 225 points for 5. So list construction, I got the Sagittarum, put it down, and what I like to do is I like to think I've got this unit. What in my army can make that unit better?
Yeah.
So initially, I started to look at character support. Trajan Trajan, but then I thought no, and then obviously that's when I thought I can't put a character with them because that would put them to 6 models, and then I wouldn't be able to put the Venatari in. So then I thought, right, okay, I want to put them in a transport.
Yep.
The Coronis is 200 points. I've got one. I love a Coronis. It's a great model.
It is a great model.
But does the Coronis actually add value to it? Well, yes, it does, and it basically is that similar. It's the same as a Razorback, basically. If I target something, then whatever comes out of the Coronis gets reroll wounds against it in shooting.
Yes, which is massive.
Which is massive because what you've got is you've got 15 shots.
Yep.
Hitting on 2 sustained hits, so you're going to get 15 hits on average.
Yep.
Then you've got 15 dice re-rolling wounds. So you've got 15 dice initially, then you're re-rolling off whatever you want, and every 6 is 2 dev wounds through.
Yep.
So that can swing. The maths on it, is pretty average, to be honest. But when you're going into something that you need killed, for example, in the first game, I went into 5 Alaris, and I think the Sagittarum killed 4, and the bus itself killed another one because the bus itself has got 8 shots, twin link dev wounds. So what it does is it gives Custodes access to dev wounds.
Yes.
And it gives us that extra shooting that can really help. Now, where we can then put it up another layer, for those listening, if UKTC have ruled that you can't add Inquisitors. Okay?
That's a whole different video, but yeah.
But I'm just going to say this because this is absolutely insane. If you are with or going to tournaments or in a meta where they allow it, which I think I've seen a picture, a screenshot of someone from Games Workshop saying that they should be allowed or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was someone who commented saying that their rule trumps the battle line rule. So, sorry, my cat's just climbing on me. So what it means is if you put Greyfax into them, so say for example you've got Greyfax, or you've got Draxus.
Yes.
Right. So if you put Greyfax with them, then they get anti-psycho 4+ in range. So if you're going into any Psyker unit, say you've got paired into Grey Knights, or you're going into Eldar because Wraithguard, when they've got the Spirit Seer, they turn into a Psyche unit. Right? If you go into the
a Curse Cultist with Dark Commune.
Curse Cultist, Yinkan as well.
Yinkan, yep.
Yep. All of a sudden, you're doing dev wounds on a 4-up with full rerolls, and then you've got the Inquisitors shooting.
Yep. So,
if that's where it starts to get nuts, but UKTC doesn't allow that at the moment. But if you're going to a tournament, just ask them because there are tournaments that are allowing it, and I personally think that it was their intention to allow it.
Yes.
But it's a very ambiguous rule, so I can understand why UKTC haven't.
So, just for those that aren't aware of what the Inquisitors can do, they can go with battle line units, but then there's another rule that says that if a model could go with Custodian Guard, they could go with Sagittarum, right? That's the rule.
Yeah. It's like if you've got a leader that can be attached to Custodian Guard in your army, they can now be attached to Sagittarum.
And so, because Sagittarum aren't battle line, the Inquisitor can't go with them, but then there's another conflicting rule that says because the Inquisitor could go with Custodian Guard, they could go with Sagittarum. And so you have this weird thing, and as Alan says, UKTC has ruled it one way. It's probably not the way that we'd like to do that, but it is there. So the other part of this, and there's another part of the rule that I just want to read out, and then we can talk about it a bit more, but you can then also suppress a unit, right? So a unit hit by one or more of those attacks until the start of your next turn, the unit suppressed and -1 from the hit roll. That's huge as well. You could direct 3 shots to get a hit roll on somebody, and then they're suppressed, and then put the other 4 with devastating wounds, reroll all wounds, into killing something.
Yeah, and the AP on the gun is only 1.
Yes.
Okay, so you're not going to you're not going to set the world on fire with
everything's got cover in this edition, so it's really AP nothing.
Yeah, it's really AP nothing. So it's not it's not going to do that much. So really, your shooting is going to be in most of your damage is going to come in the phase that you do your dev wounds, because it's only once per battle.
It's once per battle, yeah, and that's one of the weaknesses of the Sag.
Yeah, and also if you don't have rerolls because you're not coming out of a Cronus, I don't think that they're something you should take.
It's a huge amount of points for 5 models who can't have more than 2 OC per model. They can't have a Vexilla. They can't have a shield, so they can't have 4 wounds. They still deep strike. They still get martial katars. But yeah, you are a backfield objective holder. I remember when the edition first came out and we were talking about Draxus, because Draxus can make him untargetable. So Draxus was Sag sitting at the back trying to just pick off some shots. But even then, I just don't, because obviously Draxus can't go with them, but even if she could, I don't think that's the play. I did love how you got the best out of them with a Cronus, but you would only ever run 1 squad, right? You wouldn't drop 1 out and put 1 back into the party bus with 2 squads to get 2 turns of devastating wounds. That's not the play you'd make.
No, I would normally move up with the party bus, behind cover. Turn 2, the Sagittarum would come out and move 9, because obviously they're coming 3 inches out of the out of the bus. The bus would stick out, and then I would shoot whatever I was going to do. Then I'd dev wounds, nuke it with the Sagittarum.
Yeah.
Then I'd charge into something else, because they're not bad. The Custodes, they're not bad in combat. You can put the Qatar on them. They've got 4 attacks with Misericordias, so four models for it's pretty decent damage into chaff. You're not gonna kill Terminators, but you are gonna do some decent damage.
Is there any character that you're sitting there thinking, I would definitely run with them? I like with Trajan, you can ignore modifiers, but it's not modifiers for damage, right? It's only modifiers for. No, it's not modifiers for damage, right? That's the Trajan UKTC ruling.
Yeah, he doesn't modify damage.
No, so you probably wouldn't run with Trajan. Trajan would be a waste there. Shield Captain? Is there use you get from a Shield Captain?
No, all my characters are just going into Wardens, to be honest.
So that's because the Wardens are the best unit.
Yeah, 225 points for 5 Custodes models. They are the cheapest infantry custodian guard, or Custodes, where you get a 3 wounds T6 4 pinfall. They're the cheapest.
43 points per model. Yeah, that would. Yeah.
It's 45. So it's not bad for that, 45. But that's relative, because you've got to take 5, so they're 25 points more than 4 guard. You don't get your rerolls, so the only way I would I wouldn't do the Draxus non-targetable if I could put Inquisitors with them.
Sorry, did you say 225 or 225?
225.
Yeah, can't do math. Fine. But yeah, so the best play for them is if they could have the Inquisitor. They can't have the Inquisitor, but it's a once per battle that nobody's really looking for. Would you run them again?
Yeah, I would run them. I'm leaning towards because I really like the Coronis and the movement and the damage. I would run them, and if I could put Inquisitors, I would put the Greyfax or have Greyfax in my army. If there's Psychers, I would put Greyfax in with them. If there's not Psychers, Greyfax would just go in with a guard squad.
Got it.
Now, as it stands, if we were going to UKTC, I would just put just do what I was doing in the Coronas and move out. But they're not making my lists at the moment. They're if you're not running them in a Coronas, the impact is very, very low. So when you look at the package, it's 225 points, which is almost a quarter of your army.
Yep.
So it's a lot. It's a lot of points, but it's a lot of coverage, a lot of reach. And then obviously, what you can do is you can get them out, and then you can move and advance a Orden squad in.
Yes,
and obviously, you can't get Night Spinned if you're in a transport.
Yep.
So you can't get Basilisked or Whirlwinded. So you're not. When you come out, you're going to have your full movement. You're going to be able to advance. You're not going to have any minuses to charges. So the Kronos had multiple uses. It wasn't just for these guys.
I must admit, like, I do miss them having the second profile. I used to like them being the combi weapons. They were slightly different to everything else you could get in the army. I think just being heavy bolters with a fairly crap melee weapon, Misericordia 5-2 for 1. Like, an army that relies on its close combat, they do feel like a point sink. But like you're saying, if you can set it up correctly, I think they had play, and I think people were surprised by them at the LGT.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it, but then again, people who run Custodes and play Custodes run in a massive variety of different ways. What works for me might not work for someone else.
True.
What works for them will not work for me.
True.
I'm dreadful when it comes to moving Caladius around. I just can't do it. I seem to, whenever I play. I mean, you're really good with them, but whenever I play Caladius, I always make the wrong movements, or I always put them out of place.
Really?
I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not good at moving those tanks around. The Coronas I'm fine with, funny enough, but those guys, I think it's because I have difficulty visualizing
what the angle might need to be, how you need to. Okay.
Exactly, because I don't play like that. I play with infantry squads going into terrain and movement and speed. The thought of being static, I just can't. Get it in my head what to do.
Oh, it's great. Like, this is why I think Sag worked for me, because that gunline play kind of I like the look of. I just think that they,
Would you run Sagittarum then? Would you run them?
I would if I didn't have something to set my backfield objective, because I can shoot miles with them. So 36 inches. Again, the next episode has to probably be Wardens, because everything pales in comparison to them. And if the Wardens get a points hike and people are forced to play differently, or I'm forced to think differently, then then I think Sag now look interesting to me. But because of other reasons, I think all my points go into Wardens.
I get what you're saying. I mean, I think my lists now are every list is 275 Wardens, 275 Wardens, 120 Blade Champ with an enhancement, 120 Blade Champ with an enhancement. It's just before I know it, I'm touching 1,000 points just on those two, and a Atraxus and a Calidus Assassin.
Yeah.
So it's a shame, because we've got such a rich index.
I think it's fascinating, right? We went from end of 9th being very, very Forge World heavy, and both the units we spoke about tonight are Forge World units, and were auto includes for me in previous editions, to now not even being looking to basic Games Workshop plastic kits, which is a really interesting place to be. Yeah.
It's not somewhere I thought we'd be in the lead up to 10th, to be honest.
No, I'm far from it. But I think so. I think the thing we've done tonight, and I'm aware of the time. But I think the thing we've done tonight is there is play. One of these units everybody's looking at, but I think they might be looking at it incorrectly. If you're out there playing it and you go, I don't understand it, neither do we. But there is, if you need devastating wounds, if you're into a meta that you need to be able to kill something, we do have access to devastating wounds, but you have to build for it. You have to put 400 odd points to be able to really double down on it. And most people won't be happy to do that. And also the Cronus is really expensive in terms of financial amounts. I haven't got one.
Oh yeah. Don't go out and buy one. Don't go out and buy one. If you want to test it out, use a Land Raider or Caladius.
Or Caladius. No, the Caladius is too small. The Land Raider is at least the boxy kind of size.
Yeah, but I think it's a similar base size or something. So just test it with that, and if you really like it, the models are great. But don't go out and buy it based on what we're saying.
Okay. That's everything I want to moan about Venatari for and kind of offer up Sagittarum. Is there any final thoughts that you want to give to anybody?
No. I mean, like I said, this is all our opinions. I don't want to basically sound like we're preaching.
I'm preaching.
This is our opinion.
I'm preaching.
I know you are. You've got a massive chip on your shoulder about Venatari.
Hey, I'm always right. It's fine.
But if you've got any feedback, please do leave a comment. We've kind of been blown away with the response to our first video. It seems like there's like a lot of interest in kind of competitive side for Custodes. So we're just going to keep shipping away. And like I said, if this is something that you're interested in, please do like and subscribe. And we'll move forward from here.
It'd be interesting to kind of use these units more and say, okay, what's the handicap for the next RTT we go to? And let's use some Venatari and see if we can make them actually turn an objective or something. But it's 200 points. It's so many points.
It's just you and that 200 points, mate.
Yeah.
You and that 200 points.
I'm just
Okay. Jesus. All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for listening. If you've got this far, you really do deserve a cup of tea. And yes, we will see you on the next one.
We'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks so much.